Hey y'all, Natalie here today, and it is Mixed Media Frenzy Friday. Today we are scraplifting Elisa Ablett and this adorable, interesting, unique layout. So I'm looking for the circular part of my layout, and I'm looking through these gel press acrylic paint prints that I recently made. I will throw that video up here soon. I didn't include it in here because I felt like the video is already a little bit long. So I do have footage of me making these prints. So I will use some of the other ones later. So I will include that in one of the videos soon. So I'm just using that circular template to draw a circle on to the background paper, which already has clear gesso on it, as well as I drew a circle onto the gel printed paper. In Elisa's original layout, she has like very beautiful watercolor feathering out from the circle. So that is where I'm going with this. She also has some sketchy circles, probably chipboard around the photo. So I die cut a few circles, and I'm gonna kind of chop those up and do the same technique. But first I'm gonna work on my background. So I have my circle. It's just like a guide, and I have two navy blue colors. I applied water around the circle before adding the color because that really helps to keep the color in the defined area, as well as it helps feather out the color, which is the look on the original layout. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm applying plain water first and then adding the color into it. I did want a little bit more of a navy blue color, and the Heidi Swapp Shine that I put there is a more peacocky teal color. So I kind of end up wiping up the pool of color that includes that and just going more with the navy blue here. On the first layer, I end up doing 2 layers, but I'm loving how that looks. I just want it to be really saturated with color. And it doesn't matter that it's dripping across the circle because the circle is going to be covered up by that gel printed background. But I'm loving the shape that the watercolor is creating around the circle. I just need to get more color into the area. So I have this photo of my son. He is from when he was in a wedding this past summer, and he's wearing a blue suit, and then his shirt has navy blue and purple. So that's why I picked the background that I chose out of the gel print options, because it had a lot of purple in it, and I thought that helped reflect the purple that was in his shirt in the photo. So I'm going to set this aside to dry. And while I do so, I'm going to take the circular items that I die cut from, that's an Altenew die. And I'm just going to trim out a lot of the grid, and I'm going to kind of make it messy, and I'm going to use my Versamark ink and ink it up because the white was a little too stark. The background paper is gray. I have navy blue. I just wanted it to kind of be darker. So I'm going to use that Wow embossing powder. I think it's called Midnight Dream. I don't have it in front of me, sorry, but I think that's what it is. And it's a navy blue glitter. And I'm just going to use it to heat emboss around the die cuts. And there's white still showing through, and I'm totally fine with that. I actually like that it adds to the distressed look. So here we have the semi-dry. It's not completely dry. I'm going to use my heat gun to finish drying it off, but I'm going to do another layer because I put the gel printed background on, and I'm like, you know what? How about we add some purple around? And I'm really glad that I went back in with the purple. So I'm doing the same situation. I'm doing additional just plain water around the circle, and then I'm just dropping in the color. I'm doing the navy blue color as well as a purple color, and then the combined color when they mix together is super gorgeous. I'm super glad that I added in the additional purple color. It really brings a good cohesion to the page, and it's just really beautiful. So today is the hop where everyone plays along with the Mixed Media Frenzy group. So it should be a really good big hop today. And having that clear gesso on the page allowed me to use that baby wipe to pick up the color that kind of went outside of the beautiful blooming watercolor section, and more was like an ugly drip that I didn't want. So I just pulled it up before it dried. And but make sure you check out all the links down below to see how everybody interpreted this layout. It's a super fun, interesting page, so I can't wait to see what everyone does with it. Yeah, I'm super happy with how this watercolor turned out, and it was really fun to make. I like that. I'm super glad that I did the layers, because layering watercolors up obviously makes the color richer, but I love that you can see the lighter color below the darker second layer of color. There's the final product. Super gorgeous. I'm really happy with how it turns out. And that's what it's going to look like. But before I stick down the gel printed paper, I'm going to rough up the edges with my paper distresser. And then I'm going to use my Juniper Mist navy blue ink from Catherine Pooler to ink up the edges, as well as do a little bit of stamping around them. So there I am inking it up, and I know that might make some people cringe that I don't use a little foam brush, but I don't. And I don't really have a problem with it messing up my ink pads, so I'm okay with it. But I just chose this little Hatchmark stamp by Amy Tangerine, and I'm just doing multi-generational stamping just around the edges to give a lot of texture and that additional navy blue color. So I sewed around the edges. I did a single stitch as well as a zigzag stitch on my sewing machine. So I added a lot to those edges, but I am happy with how it ends up looking. And I feel like that really helps make it blend into the watercolor black background, so it doesn't just look like I have this piece of paper just randomly sitting there. It just is kind of like not a seamless transition, because obviously it's literally a seam, but I don't know, it just gives it good cohesion. So there's the photo backed in white cardstock, and well, maybe I haven't backed it yet, but anyway, I'm gonna just tuck it in between those two die cut images, and then I'm gonna work on adding in the second circle at the top. Oh, I went through a bunch of die cuts to find a title, and I liked the word lovely there, but it was a little stark with being so big and on such a white background, as well as being so pink, and I don't really have a lot of pink. There is some pink in his shirt, so I just use it as inspiration to create a different title. But I just cut out some of the interwebbing of those circle dies, and then I'm going to use it with that Vicki Boutin die that's like the circles there. But first I'm going to work on that title. So I grabbed a lovely stamp that was really similar to the pink one, but I'm going to stamp it in the navy blue. I'm using my stamping platform, and I remembered I got stamping bugs for Christmas, so I grabbed those out, and those are a dream, man. I'm definitely going to be using those all the time when I use my stamping platform. They just give you really good even pressure without you having to like squeeze down with your arms. So I die cut this word lovely that I stamped here, and then I'm going to use some glossy accents on it just to give it some interest. It makes it almost like an enamel look, but it does require a lot of dry time, but to me it's worth it. I really like the way that it looks, so I just covered the entire thing with it glossy accents, and I'm going to set it aside to dry for a good long time, like a whole day if you can, really. So I decide to ink up and emboss that part of the circle that I am reusing after I had already dissected it out of the portions that I'm using around the photo, and giving it the same treatment that I did before, and using it as a layering piece in the second circle section. And in the original layout, hers doesn't really go outside of the circle, but I'm not sure what size her page was, but I decided just to use that webbing as well as that one die cut up there in the left hand, and I will use that little chipboard piece down around the title. I grabbed some florals from Vicki Boutin Storyteller, as well as from Pinkback Studio, a really old collection called Indigo Hills, and I'm going to use a couple of those to bring in the pops of pink from his shirt. I tried to use both birds, but those florals from Vicki Boutin, they're just so huge. And that's a trend that American Crafts have going on with their die cuts. And I know I've complained about it in other videos, but they're just almost too huge to use. I really can only make maybe 1 or 2 work on a page just because they're so ginormous. But alas, you know, we get what we get. We don't throw a fit. So I'm committing to the placement of my circles. And they are extending past the main circle, which is a liberty taken from the original. That is not in the original layout, but that's okay. I'm cool with that. It's just supposed to be for inspiration and a jumping off point. So here I am jumping. I am going to put that little blue bird in the circles as well. That's why I just kept it pretty simple with just those 2 pieces up there. But on the original layout, she has some little carrots or what do you call them? Chevrons. So I made a couple small chevrons for the left-hand corner and then a couple larger ones for the bottom right. And I just did those in navy blue. I didn't want them to stand out too much. But there you can see the piece that is the glossy accented piece. I put it down around the circle edge like in the original layout. I tried to make that little bird work, but it wasn't facing the right direction and I just wasn't having it. So I added in the little word celebration on a pink tag. And so that is when I decide to tuck in flowers in 2 other places around the circle. So then I will have a nice pleasing visual pink triangle. And yeah, there you have it. A little triangular shape that includes that pink color. And then I'm going to also use these enamel dots, and I will do the pink ones and some lavender ones and a couple dark plum ones. And I think that's going to be it. Like I said, check out all of the links down below for the Hop today. There's tons of inspiration. I'm also going to throw in my affiliate links if you would like to go shopping. I picked up most of these items at the A Cherry on Top craft store. And I would love it if you would subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And here's my layout. And here is Elisa's original layouts. I am grateful to her for this gorgeous inspiration and so glad to be part of this Mixed Media Frenzy group. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.